All right.
How we doing?
Doing fantastic. Travis, I'll get everyone in from the moderation panel.
Okay.
Noraan
Hey, Kris.
popped on. Oh, Kris, we can't hear you yet. But 4 of us are on screen already, so we're already winning. Nope.
Now we're just nope.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yay.
Yep.
Now we're just waiting for Nicole. Amanda, where's Nicole at? Oh, we lost Kris.
Oh, she's probably fixing her microphone settings.
On head to the... All right. Travis, the first one I did of these, I had music going on in the background, and I got yelled at by the person who was running it, just to set the mood. And now instead, we're just gonna sit here in silence. So, Yoram, if you're out there, man, no music. It's tough without it.
Can you guys hear me now? No?
Yeah.
All right. Nothing like
Very
a
good.
momentary freak out just as you're about to go on, but your audio doesn't work.
Yeah, but good thing you know how to handle
Oh,
those, right?
yeah. Lots of technical difficulties in Excel. Let's see if my headset works. I'm going to be that person that says, "Can you hear me now?" And, yeah.
It's all good.
I told Kris we weren't worried about her because she's done this before, and it's new technology, so she's basically a thought leader on this right now.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me now or no?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right.
How's everyone today overall? How are you two doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Travis?
Good. Just, I think there's a lot more clarity around a lot of the conversations and topics that we talked about a little bit like earlier last week, and I think it's just starting to come up in more and more conversations. And so for me, it's just like it's definitely a clarity moment, and I'm just thankful to be here. So
Sorry, guys, I was having camera issues.
No.
You there?
it's all good.
All right, Nicole's having connection issues. But before we introduce everyone, if you could see us, we'll start in a few minutes. So let me just drop one more message in the chat. Or actually, if my team's out there, if you could tell everyone how to just get into the sessions if they're still in the reception area. There we go. Delegate. So I'll do a quick intro, Travis, and then I'm gonna get off and I'll leave it to you. And hopefully by then Nicole's gonna be on. So everyone who's watching right now, my name is Kris Gannon. I'm the founder of Captivate Talent. A couple weeks ago, my colleague Carolyn Estelle came to me and she wanted to put together an event series. And she was starting to cultivate this women in sales leadership group and wanted to make it like a mentor-mentee type program. And I said, okay, let's throw on a virtual event. Over the last couple weeks, realizing that June was not only Pride Month, but there was a renewed sense of awareness around diversity and race and what it means in our workplace, we decided to kind of alter the first event. And make it much more focused on current issues that are facing us every day. So this first event, I asked Travis King if he could moderate because I thought he would be a better person to not only, I honestly called him to see if he had a few answers for me, and then I admitted to him that I don't even know how to ask the right questions right now. So my hope is that out of this, we can have some really good discussion, a little bit of networking, and then we can dive into some deeper discussion around what's going on today and how maybe we can make it better. So with that, Travis, I'm going to bail off and hand it over to you, and I'll work on making sure Nicole gets on in the next couple minutes too.
Thanks so much for that, Kris. And thanks so much for having me moderate and host. I'm super excited to connect with everyone tonight, and just want to start off real quick, basically setting the stage and letting everybody know that what we're about to get into tonight is a conversation that most of us typically don't have. And so what I want everyone to be conscious of is that this is going to be a place that is going to have moments and have questions and have topics that might make you uncomfortable, and that is intentional. One of the things that we talked about as a collective, at least on the panel side of things, has been the challenge and weight that it takes to have these conversations and to be a part of the solution. And one of the things that I've been finding with a lot of conversations that I've been having has been the allyship and the worry that, well, I'm not a person of color, and so like how can I really help, and how can I begin to empathize and understand where you're coming from? And I just want to say, for the record and everybody watching that's looking to be an ally, I think showing up to things like this is a step in the direction. And so I think being able to say, okay, I want to drive change, I want to be a part of the solution, and the first step is showing up to things like this. And so for anyone out there that's listening that might be in that role or situation, just know that by being here and taking part in these conversations, you are helping. And with that, definitely just want to introduce Noraan and Kris. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. Really excited to get some of your perspective. So would you guys mind quickly sharing a little bit about your backgrounds, and I'll let you guys, let's see, Kris went like this, so Noraan, I'll let you go first.
Yep, I'll go first, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Noraan, Sadik. Really excited and honored to be here with all of you. I started my career as an attorney and about 10 years ago made the jump to the revenue side, and so was an entrepreneur, and then spent most recently my last 6 years at Axiom, where I was most recently the director of account management for the East. I'm not really sure what there is to say that we'll get into a lot of it as we move forward, but more than anything, I think I just want to share that I am really happy to be partaking in this conversation with all of you. I'm hopeful that we will all take something away from this, including me. I am by no means an expert here, but just am really looking forward to sharing and speaking with you all.
And my name is Kris Wiig. I've started my career in sales at Bloomberg in 2001, so doing this for about 20 years. After Bloomberg, I've spent now the majority of my career with startups, specifically building out sales teams and really launching products at startup companies. I've worked with, at this point, a little over 40 different startup technology companies, almost always with first-time founders. I've worked in a variety of different industries between New York, California, Israel, and Chicago. I want to join this conversation as a woman in sales, but also somebody who is trying to figure the best way right now to be supportive, be an ally, do the critical work. And I'm also here to share how you might be fumbling and stumbling through that and make sure that we have the courage to keep going. Can't hear you, Travis. There we go.
There we go. Noraan, thanks so much for that background, and Kris as well. And I thought we could, kind of kick things off with sharing a story, because I find that a lot of times in this specific conversation, not a lot of people actually understand the situations that people go through. And so, Noraan, I don't know if you want to go first, or Kris, if you want to take this one, but I'd love to hear a story from either of you, kind of about how you've dealt with, or maybe something that's happened to you in the workplace.
Kris, I'll let you take this one first.
All right, cool. I'm going to kind of jump in here right now and go more on being an ally when it comes to racial issues, especially right now in this moment. So on this is a recent one. On May 8th, which happened to be Ahmaud Arbery's birthday, a very good friend of mine. I played Division I basketball at Brown, college teammate of mine. We've known each other now about 20 years. I would consider her a best friend. She is very much family to me. She's also a Black woman, very successful in sales, technology, leadership herself. And she sent a text to a group of us that on that text chain, you had Olympic athletes, professional athletes, female, these are all women, partners in some of the largest law firms in the country. These are some big time educated, primarily white women. And she sent a text to us basically saying, what the F, you're not showing up for me and I don't feel any support from you right now. And I might start crying right now just explaining this story. And she was 100% right. And all of us had been, exchanging texts kind of through coronavirus, just keeping ourselves sane with some jokes and stuff. But none of us were using our ability to have intelligent conversations to talk about what was going on and how people we care deeply about were being impacted. And it was I hesitate to say a wake-up call because I've known about this. This is not the first time somebody brought this to my attention. This is not the first time I've been aware of this, but it was a huge moment for me. And again, this was only a few weeks ago to be like, it is time to step up. I called my friends and we had a discussion. While part of me wanted to hide, part of me wanted to just sit there in the shame and guilt of, wow, I've been letting my friend down. But instead, I tried to step into this with some courage and some humbleness. And she shared with me, like, it is not my job to educate you. You are a really educated, intelligent woman. You need to go figure this shit out on your own. But it is, she did say to me, I need you to help. I need you as a white female leader to step into this space, and I need you to help. So that was a huge reason that I've just been diving headfirst into this, and I've been fumbling a lot. And so I thought that I would be on this conversation today to share some of the things that my company is doing, my team is doing, that I'm doing in my personal life, that I'm doing in my professional life. And as a female in business, this is also my problem, because as a white woman, I've certainly experienced tons of barriers, but there's even more barriers for our friends and colleagues, male or female, or people of color. And so if you want to be standing up against any oppression for yourself as a female in business, you better be sure that you're standing up for anybody who is also experiencing that as well.
Thanks so much for sharing, Kris. I know that couldn't have been easy, and I'm giving you some claps because you did not tear up and you did not cry. So good job. None of these, stories are easy, and before, I don't want to dive too much in because we'll cover some of that stuff in some of the later conversations. But I definitely would love to pass the microphone over to Noraan and have you share a story about, an experience that you've had that you'd want to bring people's attention to.
Sure. Yeah. I don't have a specific incident in mind. I think more I have sort of an overarching learning that has really crystallized for me over the last, let's say, 6 months or so as I've navigated my own career. I have often prided myself, as a woman of color and as sort of not focusing too much on that, right? For better or worse. And have, I'm proud of the accomplishments that I've made, both in education and in my career, and have mostly operated from the point of merit. Like that should be enough, right? That I do a great job. I'm a great team player. I'm a people manager, a leader, and all the things that you would expect out of someone in that role. And I think in the last 6 months in particular, not only because of the things that are happening in our world right now, but, in my own experiences, it's really come to light how, as much as I want to believe that that's the case, it's really not. I think that there are ways, and I think we'll talk about this a bit more, to balance that feeling of wanting to stand in who you are, and be really proud of that, but then also not over-index on it. But I think you can't ignore it as a person of color, and no matter your background or education. And so I think for me that manifested in 2 ways. One, as I was looking at my own career and how to ascend, I really didn't understand how important it was to find allies for myself, right? Not just my direct manager, right? But also people within my organization who were really looking out for me, and wanted to invest in me, and were willing to spend some of their own political capital to invest and to bring me up the chain, for lack of a better way of putting it. I think I thought, oh, well, that's not something I need, right? I will do that on my own and continue to ascend as I perform. But the truth is, I think for women of color more than anyone, I think it's important for everyone, but for women of color more than anyone, I do think that it's an extremely important thing. And I think it becomes very difficult until our society really begins to sort of wake up, much more. The other thing I'll say is just sort of in reverse, and I will call myself out. I think that I have often spent so much time focusing on my own development, right? And how challenging and difficult that is. All of us are in our own heads, that sometimes I haven't reached out to junior people below me as much as I really should be, knowing that they look at me in many ways as a role model. Not to say that I've not done anything, but I know for sure that I could be doing more. And I think this last 6 months has really opened my eyes to that, and certainly something I'm committing to even more now.
Love that, and I think that last point that you mentioned about paying it forward to the people that are coming next, I think that's another area that anyone listening can really take a deeper look at and say, how are we preparing the next wave of people to get into this world? Because a lot of times, I'm sure you guys would all agree with this, but to have the conversation of diversity, equity, and inclusion is not the thing, right? Like, you have to be building pathways and really laying the pavement for what sort of experiences people in the future can expect. And I think that all starts now with assessing where everything actually is, and then doing things like this and building in actionable steps that people can take to kind of get into these positions, into these companies that previously have, for lack of better words, kept them on the outside. And so, not to get too deep there, I want to bring us back up and have Nicole share her introduction, so a little bit about her background, and then also a story that has impacted you that you feel comfortable with sharing with everyone. So thanks so much for joining us, Nicole.
Thanks for having me. Sorry I'm late. Yep. You can't hear me?
No.
Oh, you good now? Okay, great. The computer gods do not want me to talk today, but I'm going to speak even more loudly because it's ridiculous. But anyway, my name is Nicole Taylor. I've been in inside sales or sales management for the past 20 years, and my focus is on, really coaching and mostly entry-level people and really helping them to, climb that ladder or whatever it is that they want to do for their goals. And it's really important to me to be that person that is able to inspire them and motivate them to get more and to get whatever it is that they can out of life, in general. And I think a story that resonates with me, and I'll kind of start backwards from recent events, is that I'd say like a week after the George Floyd killing, I was sitting at my desk getting ready for work, and I was listening to like fire trucks and craziness going on outside from the protest and stuff. And I kind of felt like, what do I say? Who do I talk to about this? So people actually understand my point of view or what it is that I'm going through. So like helpless in that moment, but also so hopeful in that moment that maybe this is something that's going to spark a change or make me feel comfortable to actually talk about these things. So I wrote an email to my team and then eventually to the company with like, hey, this is how you can help. These are resources. This is, what you can do. And I know that a lot of people say like, it's not your Black employees job to do that. But I kind of felt like I need to help to educate people that want to take action, right? And it's hard sometimes to be like the only person in the room that looks like you. And it's hard sometimes to be the only person that feels the way that you do, or to think that no one can relate to what it is that you're going through. So I really thought that communication and that open dialogue was really important. And that's something that I've struggled with my entire life, being, in tech sales as a woman in general, and especially as a woman of color, like who understands if we were in this event at this very moment, I'd probably, or in a different type of event, a networking event in general, I'd probably be the only one, and you get used to that. And I kind of thought about that from that perspective, like that's kind of fucked up, sorry. But how can I figure out how to help, right? And I told the story the other day, going back a few years, that I actually was at a networking event where I was the only Black person there, and Kris was on the panel, right? And I was unemployed. I wasn't going to go. I found myself in a situation where I was laid off and I had no idea what to do. And for the first time in my career, I was kind of discriminated against. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, because in my 15 years prior to that, I always prided myself on having a diverse team, right? And I'm like, if the tech space in New York City, with my experience, I can't find a job, like, how does this work? Like, how do I navigate these waters? So I put like my whole self into, you know, just being passionate about encouraging others to step out of their comfort zone and figuring out, like, you know, how to navigate this. So, you know, I became passionate about diversity and inclusion. I was always passionate about it, but didn't quite know how to do it. You know, figured out how to help to educate people, how to look for allies in the company, like Noraan said, how to figure out like what that people can know about you to help amplify your voice and to be heard, right? So I had a totally different aspect in life, because honestly, I was raised that I belong wherever, right? I never felt uncomfortable in my skin before, even though I was like the only. It was kind of like, this is a wake-up call. I'm much older in my career now, and I actually feel like, do I fit in here? Do I belong here? So, you know, that's kind of where I am. You know, from hopeless to hopeful, and so excited to even be here to have this conversation, because honestly, how many of us on this panel are on this, you know, event right now can say that we would have had this conversation a month ago, you know, a week ago, right? Like, there was no opportunity to sit here and have this conversation. So I'm hoping that everybody can take one thing at least away that they're going to do differently, or, you know, just change in their life. So that's me in a nutshell. Sorry.
No, that was great, Nicole. Thanks so much for that. And I think that one of the next things that I'd love for us to talk about, and I definitely love to start with you, Kris, and really kind of unpacking how you've been showing up since that moment back in May, where you had your friend straight up call you out for not being there for her. Again, for everyone that's watching, Kris is coming up here and sharing actual personal stories, right? And this can't be easy. So just want to say, you know, thanks again, and that, like, sharing these things can be tough, but at the same time, it's going to give everybody, you know, the experience and the strength to continue to push forward with more of these conversations and situations. So Kris, if you wouldn't mind, you know, maybe sharing a couple of things that you've done.
Sure. So after kind of getting, you know, the call to action from my friends, I actually shared the whole experience with my company. So luckily we had created a space during coronavirus where several times a week in the morning, we host something internally that myself and another colleague call Coffee Talk, where it's explicitly a place where we talk about taboo work topics. And so we have a Slack channel, and I posted this experience in Slack channel because I wanted all of my team, and when I say my team, I mean my whole company, to be aware of the fact that this was something that was not only important to me, but something that we needed to be able to start talking about as a company, even if it made us really uncomfortable. And I had to step into that discomfort myself. And so this gave a lot of opening to people sharing. So our company does a decent job at diversity, but we have a long way to go, which I can get into later. And this was meant to say, you know, to some of the people, the white people in my company, like, okay, who knows what's going on? Who can help? How can we help each other? And also, how do we not put any burden on the people of color in our company to be the ones to answer this? How do we also create a safe space where people of color in our company feel supported during this without us being, you know, and I'm gonna fumble through this conversation with you guys, so my apologies in advance if I say anything that upsets anybody. My intention is the complete opposite. But I have to be clear that as a white person, it's not my place to run around and just start checking in with all the people of color in my company to be like, there's a way to do it and there's a way not to, and they might not be in the mood that day to hear from you, right? So there's since then, and this, in no way, shape, or form am I taking any credit for this, but since I've shared this experience with my team, many of the staff that are in let's say, more junior roles have stepped to the plate and said, here's what we're doing, here are resources. So we now have a Slack channel just filled with information. We've started book clubs dedicated to this. We had a whole town hall where everybody was sharing, what are we doing about diversity? Where are we at today? Where do we need to go? We surfaced 35 different ideas as a company on things that we could start doing in terms of action steps. So we're starting we have 2 CEOs, 2 co-founders. So our co-CEOs, one is a man, one is a woman, have really jumped into this as well. So there's been just a huge call to action from our entire team. And I also just started stepping into one-on-one conversations with people that maybe there would have been tiptoeing around this topic before. And I allowed myself to be screwing it up. And I asked, for some space to be able to screw this up. And I also just approached this with humbleness, where my team has flat out said to me, hey, Kris, when you joined, you did this was a recent conversation, you did a great job of making sure women were hired, because there was a lot of inequality in the male to female ratio. But then one of the women on my team who's of color was like, but you hired 3 white women. And I was like, ooh, yes. So I've made sure to share with my team universally that if there's something they want to say to me, or if there's something that they see I'm screwing up, they've got please bring it. And I think that's taken a while of building trust. So I didn't just get to walk into the company and be like, hey guys, tell me how I'm screwing up, right? Like this is something that as leaders, or even if you are not a leader by title in your company, the concept of building trust with the people you work with is critical. You can't step into this conversation just like this today if that existing trust is not there. So I would say to some of the folks on the call, take stock of your existing relationships with your colleagues, your peers, your leaders, and also the people that report to you. If you have not already been sharing personal conflict, through coronavirus, which gave us some good prep work of, hey, we got some personal shit going on. If you are not capable, or you are really uncomfortable in those conversations, it's going to take a little bit of time for you to maybe dig into some of these conversations and have that trust. But you gotta start doing it.
Thanks so much, Kris. And also for people listening out there, I think one of the other things that's so amazing about what Kris just mentioned, and that she's showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly of the process and growing publicly. And I want to point this out specifically because I know in the last couple of weeks, there have been things, comments, posts made all over the place. And I see people deleting those when people comment to then give feedback and let them know either how it was out of pocket or what they honestly thought about it. And I think to Kris's testament of showing out and saying, hey, I'm here to show you the mistakes and I'm here to show you the growth and the learning so we can all get there together. I just want to, one, thank you for being such a courageous leader, Kris, in doing that, because it's not easy. And 2, advocate that anybody that is wanting to be a part of the solution to keep your learnings up and don't be afraid and delete them and run away, because that's not going to help anybody, and it's especially not going to help you if that's how you're thinking that you can handle this, right? So just wanted to plug that for people out there, because it's something that I know it's been talked about in my community a lot, and I wanted to make sure that was voiced for people to hear. And so I guess I'll kind of flip the tables a little bit. Either Noraan or Nicole, whoever wants to kind of take this next, but how would you women, ladies, like to, for people to approach you as an ally, right? So let's hop in, we're in the company, right? I'm in a leadership position, or either I'm on your team and I don't really know how to approach you. I don't want to just come up and say, hey, how are you feeling? Or, how are you doing with the Black Lives Matter movement and all the crazy things that just pop into our DMs every week, right? So I'd love for you both to kind of share how you'd like to be approached and talked to.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, actually, before I answer that question, I actually just want to also commend you, Kris, on everything that you said and how vulnerable you've been, and add sort of one more point from my perspective around vulnerability, which is, I think in general, it's obviously super difficult to be vulnerable, but I think that's also true for those of us who are of color, right? I think that right now, I really hope we can all take advantage of the opportunity for everyone to have space to be vulnerable and open, because I think that's what's really going to create these kinds of conversations in our workplaces. So I just wanted to say that, because even, for me, it's difficult to be vulnerable about how I'm feeling through this process, or at any point, even before the Black Lives Matter movement, expanded the way it has most recently. So I think that's just one thing I want to underscore. As far as how to be approached, so I have been approached quite a bit over the last several weeks. I think that I completely understand and have felt at times, some exasperation, right, and frustration, as I think many of us have. But I think the thing that I've tried to remind myself more than anything is that I'm really grateful and happy that people are trying. And I think that most people are coming from a good place. And so I think even when I'm a little bit agitated, I remind myself of that fact, and I try to give whoever this person is some grace, even if they are coming to me and not quite saying the right thing. Because I think just having the courage and the care and the thoughtfulness to reach out matters a lot, and it gives that opportunity to open the door. I've had people, just friends reach out, and I've had former managers reach out who now work elsewhere and are finding themselves, they are, let's say, white, male, female leaders, finding themselves really uneasy with how to approach this, and looking to me to give them guidance or speak to their teams directly or what have you. And no, did they say the perfect thing? No, not always. But because I know they were coming from that good place, and they were leaving themselves the space to say, hey, I may not have this right. And if you don't want to speak to me about this, or if you don't, if you're offended by this request, I totally understand. I think that really when you come with that kind of honesty and vulnerability, most people, I imagine, would be receptive. At least I was. So that's what I would say.
Thanks so much for that. And Nicole, I was going to say, do you want to add anything, or do you want to save this for the breakout rooms? I feel like
I can add something. I have tons of stuff for the breakout room. But I think to what Noraan said about grace is really important. Like, I've told plenty of people as well, like, I don't know what to say either, right? Like, I don't have all the answers just because I'm Black. Like, I don't know, like, how you should feel, or even how I should feel. And I think that people on the call, like, need to understand that's the reality of the situation, right? I can give a list of things that I would love to see change, right? I can give a list of things that I would like to see people take action on, but just checking in to see how people are doing. Like, one of my former colleagues asked me how I slept the night before. That was like so impactful to me, because I hadn't been sleeping. I hadn't been like, actually able to communicate how I was feeling. And, she was kind of like, hey, make sure you get some sleep tonight. And I was like, okay. So really just like a check-in to see how people are doing, I think is important. And really just wanted to the sponsor for that. We'll talk about being an ally, but speak for us in places where we're not able to speak for ourselves, right? Speak for us when we're not in the room, or even if we are. Like, how do you help us to amplify our voice if we don't feel comfortable, or if that is the situation, that's happening? And I think that it doesn't take a huge thing. It's like little steps that we both or all have to take all together every single day going forward that are really going to make the difference. But we don't have it all figured out either. So I think any positive.
I love that, Nicole. And it definitely just made me also think about something that I don't know how I haven't brought this up yet, but just think about this for a second. If you're a leader out there, if someone asked you the question, how are all of your people feeling today? Could you answer that? And I think if you step back from that for a second and say, oh, wait, do we even have the tools in place to figure out how our people are feeling today? If the answer is no, then maybe think about trying to get some of those things in place, right? Like, maybe it is a Slack channel that people put, from 1 to 5, how they're feeling, similar to, there's a bunch of apps out there. I think there's one called the Daily Shine that some people use that gives emojis for how they're feeling, right? So do you have a tool in place to measure the overall happiness and well-being of your company? And I think the aspect of this, I just wanted to go real quick to the poll. And it looks like we had 2 poll question. So what is your sense of belonging in the workplace? And it looks like right now, 64% of people feel like they fit in. It just changed. 61% of people feel like they fit in. 35% of people say that they have a small circle. And then 4% of people says they feel like an outsider or different than everyone else. So it seems like from the poll, there's a good sense of belonging here, which is really, really positive to see. And so I'm curious to see how that kind of pans out as we move through the conversation tonight. And then one quick question that we also asked was, how would you rate your overall happiness right now? And surprisingly, 56% of people said good. 15% said fantastic. Oh, here we go. Changing on me again, y'all. Let's see. So 54% said good. 29% said okay, fine. 14% said fantastic. And 4% said not great. And nobody said they felt bad. So that is a blessing. And so I definitely want to, give us some time to dive a little bit deeper into some of these topics. So what we're going to do from here, and I don't know if Kris, you're still behind the scenes, but I'm pretty sure we're going to break off into the networking groups, and we're going to have 2 different sessions going on. So we're going to have one breakout where it's the topic of conversation is wake up, being uncomfortable and making change happen. So waking up white leadership and discussing how you can be an ally and going over tangible action plans that can be implemented in the short and long term. And then there's going to be another breakout room, which is going to be, it's called Tokenism. So how to be the only. And we're going to talk about, things like just because you're being invited to the company or the table doesn't mean you actually are put in a position to succeed. And we will focus on, how you can go from coping and surviving to thriving in the workplace. And so I'm super excited to, be in the how to be the only. And I think it's me, Noraan, in that one. And then Kris and Nicole, you guys are holding down the waking up leadership. So unless anyone has any other thoughts that you guys want to share before we get in, I definitely go ahead, Kris.
I just want to say, and hopefully there's not another moment in time in the very near future where we need to do this, but something that I found, instead of singling out people to say, how are you doing, right? Because even that question alone, that's like, when somebody that you care about dies, how are you doing? No, obviously my world is rocked right now. Like, I don't know how to answer that. So one of the things I started trying to do is anytime there was a team meeting or an individual one-on-one, I started the meeting by saying, I just want you to know we're not going to have business as usual right now. If our emotional tanks are not here right now, that's okay. And just if you want to talk about this as a business tactic, if your team's emotional tanks are empty, there is no production. So you are not going to get anything out of anybody unless you make sure that they are emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and psychically okay. So I'd say, if instead of going that hard path of like, no, we got work to do, we got deals to close or whatever, we got, code to write, you're not going to get anywhere unless you make sure your people are okay and you give them the space to do that.
Also, like I was going to add, but I actually just mentioned that in a thing, like, I want to make sure that I'm supporting my team in any way, shape, or form that I can. And how can I support you is really important for any leader to check in with their people now, or even just like your friends, right? Because support might look different in all different aspects. But support is so important, emotionally, like, physically, however you are willing to support a person. Sometimes that step is like really important too. I've had people say like, how are you? I know that's a silly question. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm happy, I'm ecstatic. Like, how the hell can you be, right? Like, you're off your rocker, you don't know what to do. It's not normal. And like, I love that suggestion. Lola, I think, mentioned that in the chat. How can I support you?
No, all good. I'm just trying to make sure that we're moving in the right places at the right times. I'm not sure if we're planning, and this is more so on me, but I'm just trying to make sure that where to be going. Kris is back. There we go.
There we go. We're going to move into networking right now until 6 o'clock. Took a little time out of it for the panel. But then at 6 o'clock, the breakout rooms are going to be open. And just so everyone's aware, just like this, you guys in the breakout rooms, we want everyone to jump on and participate. Nicole, Travis in one room are going to be driving or Nicole and Kris in one room are going to be driving discussion, and Noraan and Travis will be driving discussion in the other room, but we want you to participate. So we will see you hopefully in the breakout rooms at 6 o'clock after some networking.
Thanks, Kris. And sorry for holding on from connecting. That's my bad. Okay. So leave.
Leave.
Are we networking with each other now?
Yeah, no, we are networking with each other. There is a button that says leave at the top, on the top, like middle right.
Gotcha.
I think we click that. I think.